Welcome to another lesson on vectors and equilibrium. In this lesson, we shall talk about different operations which can be performed on vectors. Operations on vectors. First of all, we shall talk about the addition of two vectors. Addition of two or more vectors. From basic math, we know that the addition of scalars can be performed in a straightforward method. For example, Ali traveled a distance of 2 meter. Ahmed traveled a distance of 5 meter. Ahmed traveled a distance of 5 meter. The total distance Ali and Ahmed travel is equal to 2 plus 5 is equal to 7 meter. But the addition of vectors is a little bit different from the addition of scalars, because in vectors we have also to consider the direction. Okay, direction has to be considered as well. For example, let's say we have a vector A whose length is or whose magnitude is 5 meter, and we have another vector B whose magnitude is 2 meter or whose length is 2 meter. Okay, so how we shall add these vectors? We shall add these vectors using a rule called the head to tail rule. Okay, the rule is known as head to tail rule. Head to tail rules works in the following method. We draw the vector A. Here is vector A, and here is vector A. Okay, and vector V would be drawn in such a way that its tails coincides with the head of vector A. So the tail of vector V is placed at the head of vector B. Okay, what is tail and what is head? This arrow is called the head, and this point where I placed the dot is called tail. This point is called tail, and this arrow is called head. So the tail of B is placed at the head of A. Okay, this is the first step. The next and last step is that tail of the first vector or is joined to the head of last vector or second vector. So tail of head is joined with head of B. So this is the resultant vector R. Which is equal to vector A plus vector B. So vector R is equal to vector A plus vector B. So this R is also called the resultant vector. Okay, or R is called the sum of two vectors A and B. Let us say we have more than two vectors. Okay, you see that this is vector A with some length. This is vector B with some length, this is vector C with a different length. So we shall add in this way. First, the vector A is drawn in this way. The tail of second vector is placed on the head of first vector. So vector B is placed here. Next, the tail of C is placed at the head of B. So C is placed here. The direction will remain the same. Only the initial point or will be changed. Okay. So this is the initial point of C. This is the initial point of B. This is the initial point of A, or this is the tail of A, this is the tail of B, this is the tail of C. The position of tail will change, but the direction or the angle will remain the same. The angle of A, B and C will remain the same. Okay. So how we add this vector? We join the tail of the first vector to the head of the okay, the tail of first vector to the head of the last vector. So this is the resultant vector R. This R is equal to A plus B plus C. A vector plus B vector plus C vector. Okay. A property which is very common in vectors is the commutative property. For example, commutative property defines that when we add two vectors A and B, this is same as adding the B into A. Okay, this is the commutative property of addition of vectors. So A plus B is same as B plus A. This is all about the addition of two or more vectors. We shall see other operations on vectors in the next lesson. See you in the next lesson.